Macy's shares down by more than 4% this morning after posting second quarter profit that missed estimates. The company blames the strong dollar and a backup in inventories. CEO Terry Lundgren standing by now with Stephanie Ruhle. Steph?
Terry, disappointing numbers, though I'm going to say I've got all the time in the world to buy clothes. Walk us through why you think we have these numbers.
Sure. Well, lots of things happened. First of all, we're against the best quarter we had last year was in the second quarter. We were up 4 comp last year, so we're going against tough numbers, one. Two is we took out a promotion, and, consumers are responding to promotions. We thought that was a good idea, that we'd actually do more business before and after the promotion last year. Took it out, lost it all. Business just went away. And I think talking about how the consumer is very promotional focused right now. And I think that, something very important is the international tourist. And, you were definitely not seeing the international tourists shopping in America today. The dollar is so strong that their prices are just gone up by 30% from most currencies. And we can actually track it by location. And Macy's in particular, but also Bloomingdale's, is a very strong retailer for international consumption.
How can you combat that? I mean, you're a CEO running a business, looking at your inventory. You have consumers who are addicted to promotions, and you can't help the strong dollar.
No, I can't do that. I can't. But here's the good news. I'm actually going to anniversary that number, in the holiday season. So that's the only thing I can look forward to. I think the dollar is going to stay strong. That's my guess. But as far as promotion, we're actually entering the off-price business. We've had it at Bloomingdale's, but we're actually entering the off-price business at Macy's.
What does that mean?
We're going to have Macy's Backstage, a separate company, a separate business. We're all going to be buying off-price merchandise and taking discontinued merchandise from Macy's stores and transferring it to these stores. That combination. We're opening up 6 this fall season, so we'll compete with the TJX. We'll compete with the Nordstrom Rack with our own options like that at Macy's Backstage.
But my fear is you're feeding the beast. Nobody wants to be the sucker to pay retail anymore. Well,
listen, first of all, and at the same time, I just bought a great company called Blue Mercury, which is very high-end, full-price cosmetics and beauty products. So it really does range in terms of what the consumer is doing. But overall, certainly the consumer has been trending to trade down. And, I look at that consumer and I think they're buying right now. They're just not buying in our categories. They're buying cars. They're buying houses. I'm selling furniture really well and mattresses because they're putting them in those new houses that they're buying. I'm sure their home improvement businesses are doing well. They're just not buying apparel and accessories the way that we had planned and hoped that they would. But that, in fact, will change over time.
Then what do you think the consumer looks like today? When you look at the U.S. economy, we're trying to get a feel for what the real beat is.
Right.
Who is she? Who is he? Do they have money to spend?
Yes.
Have they suddenly decided to become savers?
Well, I think it's been gradual, but the answer is yes on the saving part. But, look at the first quarter GDP growth, okay? It was nothing, right? It went from negative to slightly up. Then second quarter, a little bit better, but still, it's anemic. And where are they spending? They're spending in categories, as I mentioned. So they are spending. But their savings rate is very high. So that's a good thing long term for the consumer, and eventually history repeats itself, and I believe it will. We'll get some of that savings, but right now they've chosen to save their money as opposed to spend it on discretionary products. So my sense is and belief, Stephanie, very strongly that there will be a shift back to purchasing in those discretionary categories, and when that happens, Macy's will benefit.
China obviously is a big plan for you. That's where you're expanding. You've got new partnerships there, but we're looking at the market today. We're looking at the yuan be devalued. What does that mean for you? Well,
first of all, I'm just launching. I'm just going there. So for these poor people who have been there and trying to go against those numbers, that may be another problem. But for me, I'm brand new, and we'll be launching there this fall. So I'm not going against any of the negative stuff that's happening that may create some problems for existing retailers there. This will be new for us. But there's 630 potential middle-class consumers by the year 2022. I want some of that. I mean, that's double the entire population of America. So we'd be crazy not to have some role there. So to have this great venture, we're doing joint venture with the Fung Retailing Group. Victor Fung, you may know, very well-known gentleman. His daughter, Sabrina, who's spectacular. And my guy, who started Macy's.com for us, he's a very experienced guy. He's moving to Hong Kong. We're gonna sit together and build a business online. I'm very excited about this fall season.
Do you need to change your strategy, though? Because when we're putting it in place, You had to have been more positive on the Chinese consumer. Alibaba was in a much stronger position. When Alibaba IPO'd, we sat here and talked about what are they going to do? Buy an American media company, buy a movie studio, and now they're kind of backed into a corner. So do you need to change your strategy in any way, or at least back off?
Well, listen, I think Alibaba, and I just saw today, as we all did, that they didn't meet expectations. So they were only up 28%. I mean, to me, that's a high-class problem. So they missed expectations, certainly, that were set by others. But I hope that someday I miss expectations and I'm up 28%. So I think it's all relative. Nobody's growing here at those kind of rates, certainly in our sector and industry. So I think it's all relative about what the expectations have been set. So my guess, there's plenty of business there, plenty of opportunity. We do zero today, and so the opportunity for us is only incremental.
But let's talk about Macy's identity and how much more Macy's could do. You mentioned Macy's.com. If people were to go on Macy's.com today, do they realize, have you communicated all that's there? Because if you actually dig in, it actually looks a bit more like a Walmart and Amazon, just in terms of the vast amount of products one could buy.
Right. I mean, the product is different, but your point is that the vast array of options are there. And listen, we're the 7th largest internet company in America today. We were 8th a year ago. We'll probably be 6th by the end of this year.
Does anyone know that, Terry? Does anyone know?
I think so.
Do enough people know that Macy's.com is the 7th biggest internet?
Well, your point is valid. I mean, I'm telling you now. So everybody, it's been the 7th. Pay attention. We're the 7th largest internet company and going to 6th. So we are recognized certainly in our industry as a leader in omni-channel retailing. We invested early into the online business. We have very robust systems that help us there. I just opened a fulfillment center that I went to the opening in Tulsa, Oklahoma. 1.3 million square feet on one level. I mean, we're serious about this business, and all they do is fulfill for our online business. So we're serious about this. We're doing same-day delivery in multiple cities today. So, yes, in fact, we compete very head-on with any online retailer with Macy's.com and Bloomingdale's.com.
Then, given how big you've gotten with Macy's.com, what does this mean for your brick-and-mortar business? We look at this project you're doing in Brooklyn. We know you now potentially have an activist investor knocking at your door. Is there a real estate play here? Just given how great you are in .com, why do you need to have all these massive stores?
Well, first of all, I do believe that the consumer has shifted in the way that they shop. They start with their phone, they go into the store, they touch the product, and then they might go home and buy it on their couch or on an iPad or something. So I think that omni-channel experience, I think, is important, and I think over time will be proven out to be the right formula. It will not just be pure play, online only. It will be a combination of stores and online. As far as the Brooklyn transaction is concerned, which is a fantastic project for us, and we've been working on this for well over a year, by the way. This is not a new subject that someone came up with. This is something we've been working on for some time. This is a great transaction. So we're taking a 150-year-old store. I'm shrinking because I don't need all the floor space that I have. So I'm selling my top floors, and I'm keeping the main store. I'm selling the parking garage. I'm going to be able to put $100 million to rebuild that store again, and take $170 million out and give it back to shareholders. So it's a great, and I still own the building. After all of that, I still own the building. So to me, this is a great way to maximize the value of your real estate and still keep the flexibility.
Then Terry, the one thing I hear, whether we're talking you expanding globally, what you're doing online, what you're doing in this real estate play, is you are clearly a very active CEO. So the fact now that a headline crossed that an activist investor, Starboard, could be standing at your doorstep, what do you make of this? Because the idea behind activism is, well, thank goodness for activists. They're there to, push those sleepy CEOs. You're clearly not one of those.
Yeah, I would thank you. I think that's true. I'm very involved and very, very active in the business, and I look at every aspect. And real estate has a different valuation today than it did a few years ago. And so, while this subject has been floated many times on many retailers in the past, nothing major has transacted in any significant way. There's been a couple of things that have happened. Actually, Hudson Bay has done some things, more joint venture, actually, rather than a REIT. Sears has done some things, but we're always going to look at these ideas. And I've actually hired professional real estate teams from Green Street Advisors, who are very well known in the industry, Cushman and Wakefield. I've hired the Skadden Arps tax lawyers, to make sure that we understand the tax consequences of any work that we might do in terms of a transaction with our real estate. So I'm letting the expert really help us and guide us to make sure that we're looking at every single possibility here. But in the end, Stephanie, we're going to do what's right for our shareholders short term as well as long term.
Then I want to talk about that decision-making process. You've mentioned brands from the beginning of this conversation to now, whether you're talking Cushman or Victor Fung or Blue Mercury. I've got to ask about Donald Trump. When you choose brands to partner with, celebrities to partner with, it has to take a lot. You clearly put a lot of thought into it. Things have turned with Donald Trump, and this man has now come out on Twitter, Macy sucks. You're obviously not selling his product. Do you regret doing business with him?
No, I don't. But what happened here is unfortunate. But the truth is, Stephanie, we're not going to support any presidential candidate because you can't possibly win as a retailer trying to sell to everybody. So, as I've mentioned, if Hillary Clinton comes out with a new coat line, I'm not going to carry it because
it would be more of a pantsuit.
Okay, a pantsuit.
Probably not a coat line.
But I won't have it no matter what. Even if it's a hot seller, I won't have it because you just can't win. And we're not a political company. This is the last thing that we want to be involved with. And so that decision was a business decision, and it was related to the role that he has. It's unfortunate how it's come out, but it is what it is.
Did you feel inclined to respond to him in a big way in social media? Because that's what he likes to do.
No, I just really don't believe that's necessary at all, and so I'm not going to do that.
Do you think he's qualified to be president?
No comment.
All right. I've got to ask before we leave. It's summer. What's your favorite golf course you've ever played? We know our viewers would want to know.
Royal County down in Northern Ireland is fantastic. But I tell you, the number one rated golf course in the world is Pine Valley, right in New Jersey. And it is absolutely spectacular.
Does Donald Trump own it? No. Are you wearing something from Macy's or Bloomingdale's today?
Always. By the way, you can always count on that. Yeah. Bloomingdale's is my suit. It's Giorgio Armani. My tie is Hugo Boss from Macy's. My shirt is from Macy's, from Pink. So, yeah, you can always count on that.
Seacrest. He could have gone with Ryan.
I didn't have it today, but I've worn plenty of Ryan Seacrest.
At night, when you hit the clubs, you probably go Ryan at night.
Yeah.
Maybe Armani during the day. Terry, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Appreciate it. The one and only Terry Lundgren.